Hi, this is Robert. In this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about the fuel system in your car. Of course, everybody knows that the fuel in the car is essential to the car moving. You can't start your car if you don't have any gas. Your car won't go very far if it doesn't have any gas. And by all means, if you run out of gas, your car will stop. So, every car has a gas tank. You go to the gas station, you put gas in the car. When you start your car, you have a fuel pump that pumps gas from the tank through a fuel line into a fuel filter. From the fuel filter, it'll get to a fuel pressure regulator and onto a fuel rail that will distribute the gas in most modern day cars through fuel injectors. Now, a lot of people don't know a lot about this system, but there's one thing that you never want to let happen. And I kind of knew this before I knew anything about cars, but it's just silly. Never run your car out of gas. I'm going to say it one more time. Never ever let your car run out of gas. One of the most expensive components in your fuel system is your fuel pump. Now, your fuel pump is a pump that pumps about 45 in most cars, about 45 pounds per square inch PSI through the fuel lines. Your fuel filter is normally your fuel pump is normally about 6 inches long, and it's about as big around as a banana. Now, when this fuel pump, which is normally in the bottom of the tank, is submerged in gasoline. One thing that I've never heard nobody tell me, but this gasoline acts as a coolant to this electric pump. Yes, it is an electric pump soaked in your gasoline. Never catches fire. Don't worry about that part. Now, if you run your fuel pump out of gas, it will continue to run until all of the fuel out of the line runs out and causes the car to stall. That may take 20 seconds. That may take 30. However, once you run that fuel pump out of gas, that fuel pump will start to heat up rather quickly. Now, if the fuel in the tank is 70 degrees, 80 degrees, 120 degrees, 150 degrees, your fuel pump won't get over that temperature. If you run that little pump, again, about 6 inches long, about as big as round as a banana, if you run that pump out of gas, it will quickly heat up while it's running. So in just 30 seconds or a minute or two, the temperature in that little pump may double. When that pump heats up to 200, 300 degrees, it will actually burn the motor in the pump out. Then the pump will quit working. And what some people do that's even worse yet, they'll run that pump out of gas, and when the car runs out of gas, they'll try to start it. Keep making that fuel pump run with no gas in it, Now you got a fuel pump that is overheating, burning the motor out on it because it doesn't have the fuel to keep it cool. Now surely you got a fuel pump that's no more good. Now your average fuel pump, from what I've seen in your most common cars, those fuel pumps cost about $280 new. Then, to hire a mechanic to go in your gas tank and submit himself to the vapors and the fuel and the seals and all that stuff of going in the tank, or lowering the tank, then going in there to change that pump, that's another $100, $200. So here you are driving down the road. Let's just say you get 20 miles to the gallon. Instead of stopping and putting $4 in your tank so that you can make it another 5 miles or 10 miles or 15 miles down the road, you let that car run out of gas when there's a gas station that you just passed. Now you had a car that ran out of gas. You're trying to start it. You're burning the fuel pump out. Now, instead of you having a $4 a gallon gas problem, you got a $425 repair. Your average fuel pump costs about $425 to get replaced. Now, to me, that just never makes sense. When I was a youngster and my friends used to drive around with that gas gauge on E, I used to tell them up front, if you run out of gas, don't include me in the drama. I'm not pushing the car, I'm not steering the car, and I'm not walking to get no gas. I'm going to sit here like a bump on the log. Run out of gas if you want, because there's gas stations all up and down this road. Okay, and I did have a friend run out of gas. I watched him push and steer his car to the gas station while I sat in there and wouldn't lift a finger. He must have thought I was joking. But now with these cars, with this fuel injection and these high pressure fuel pumps and stuff like that, you cannot let them run out of gas. So don't never let your car run out of gas, or chances are you'll burn up the fuel pump. I had a nephew do it 2 months ago. I seen a lady around the corner in the apartment complex do it, burn her fuel pump up. Don't run your car out of gas. Now, a lot of people say that it's dangerous to let your fuel tank get low on fuel. I think that's nonsense. Mine gets low on fuel every week. At one time, I was pumping, when gas was $1.70 a gallon, I was pumping $600 a month in my gas tank. I was putting nearly 5,000 miles a month on my car. So it got near E a lot. Now, some people think you can suck up water. Let me tell you something. If you have any water in your fuel tank, your gas fuel pump will suck that up quick. Water is heavier than gas. So if you go somewhere and pump gas and they got a little bit of water in there, you're not going to make it 2 miles down the road before your car sucks up that water and shuts the car off. Okay, so I say run it down. There's 2 things that people don't know about the fuel tank that will help you never suck up contaminants inside your motor. Number 1, if you take your fuel pump out of your tank, you'll notice there's a screen, a mesh screen, very finely wove to stop your car from sucking up contaminants. Dirt, rocks, sand, that kind of stuff that's gritty cannot be sucked up in the sock of that fuel pump filter. Then, if by chance something does get sucked up into that fuel pump and gets pumped down the fuel line, one of the first things that it'll hit is a fuel filter. The fuel line comes in this side and out this side, and these fuel filters should be replaced at least every 100,000 miles. A very neglected part of car maintenance. If you don't know if your fuel filter has been replaced in 100,000 miles or 10 years, just get the fuel filter replaced. The filters are 10, 12, 15 bucks, and a mechanic will charge you anywhere from $30 to $60 to replace it, depending on how hard it is to get to the filter. Now, some cars, for some reason, they put the filter in the tank, so it might cost you $250 to get your fuel filter done. If you ever have any problems that somebody has to go in the tank and your fuel filter's in the tank, tell them to replace the filter. If you ever have a fuel pump go out, tell them to replace the filter. If your car is in for maintenance and it's got 100,000 miles on it and you don't know if the fuel filter's been replaced, tell them to replace the fuel filter. So, you got your fuel pump. Sometimes that goes out, especially if you run out of gas, about a $425 job. You got your fuel filter. That should be regular maintenance. You should have an indication in your owner's manual how often to replace this. And then down the line, you have a fuel pressure regulator and you have your fuel injectors. Now, last thing I like to talk about is one thing you want to do to keep your fuel injection system clean and your fuel tank system clean. You can buy a product called fuel injector cleaner. I like to use the company called Lucas. I have a bottle close by. I should have brought it. I'll go ahead and attach it to this video. This Lucas fuel injector cleaner also cleans the valves in the engine, also lubricates your fuel pump, may help that last longer, and helps clean out your fuel lines and stuff like that. So if you ever have a problem with a fuel injector leaking or fuel injector sticking, or just want to keep your maintenance of your fuel system up, they recommend you put a bottle in every 2 or 3 tankfuls. I say every oil change, add a bottle of fuel injector cleaner, no matter what brand you decide to use. I like to use the Lucas, and you could use another brand if you want. If you have any questions about fuel pumps, fuel injectors, or something like that, go ahead and comment below. I'll answer the question, or somebody else will come along and answer it for you. Again, never ever run out of gas.